Elizabeth, tell us about yourself.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Onukwe. I am an agriculturist and also a realtor. I sell properties. I am a graduate of the University of Ibadan. I'm a minister of the gospel in songs, and I am married to my dear husband, and we have a son. Thank you.
Okay, so let me start by asking this question. Please, can you just tell us the story? It's a story of how you met. How did you meet Minister Elizabeth, Pastor Sylvester? How did you meet Minister Elizabeth?
Um, okay. How did we meet? It's a very long story, so I'll try and cut it short. Okay. It was way back as okay. The church started in 2016, and then she joined in 2016. But of course, we're not friends. Just normal church member. How are you? How are you? And all that. So
My voice will not be muted. There was no how are you because we didn't used to talk.
no normal member pastor relationship now.
There was no relationship. Sorry
I've,
to cut
I've
you
had
short.
Actually, we didn't talk. We didn't usually talk because I felt she was proud. The way she usually walk, like people will look at everybody. Well, I'm like, you don't she yeah, she gonna say. So me taking funny face. I don't even look at her side at all. So when I was going to serve in I think was it in April 2016, I was posted to Niger State. So Daddy announced that because I was working in the church office, Daddy announced that okay, if there is anybody willing to volunteer in the church office, for the period of 3 weeks while I'll be away, and so she agreed to volunteer and stay for me for those 3 weeks, and that was the very first time we actually really talked like that, like that, like that, and then when I came back from camp, I came back to Ibadan, and this part of what I said I didn't like her then. When I came back from camp, and then we paid her. I mean, you worked in the office, so we give you something. So I gave her an envelope that day, and she didn't collect it. She said she does not want. And I felt like, what's the problem? You worked, take money. But I felt it was pride. So she didn't collect the money, and then I went to tell Daddy as she didn't collect the money, and then Daddy said, okay, don't worry. So Daddy collected the money and gave it to her. And then she collected it, and then she said she wants to sew it back to him. I was like, Kilo Nshele, but what's the problem? You worked. If you work, take something, and then that was that. And then the next time we're going to really have anything like that to do was when I think I was going to write my exams, my masters. I don't know if it was first or second semester, and then I was going to be away from the office for a week as well. I think that was in 2018. I'm not sure because she just finished her service then, and then so I needed someone to stay in the office for me as well for like a week. And then I talked to her, called her. She came from Lagos. Then she stayed in the office for me for that week. And then fast forward to 2020. Yes, 2020. I just broke up from my relationship then. 2.5 years relationship. It was painful. And so I remember one evening there, I was packing Daddy's bag. He was about to go in, and he said, "If you see anybody in this church that you like, come and tell me." At that point, I wasn't even interested because I just broke up. I just wanted to just come to church and serve God, and I wasn't thinking of any woman at all. So I just told him okay, and I didn't even give it a second thought. Then about 2 weeks later, he came again and said, "If you see anybody in church that you like," and I said, "Even if the person is in a relationship, come and tell me." Like, what was this man driving at? You know? And then that evening when I was going home, when I got around Preboyes, the first person that came to my mind was someone who's in a relationship and who they were planning to get married. So I just felt, no, it can't be this person now. Then her name just popped up in my mind, and I was like, lie. Lie. I just threw the thought away. Then the thought kept coming throughout that night, the following day, 1 week, 2 weeks. I was like, what is kilo day by interrolo? So I went back to him. I said, "Sir, this is the person that I'm just saying her name. I didn't even understand." So he told me to pray and all that. Then that was 20. By I think around March or April, when the lockdown was really serious, we had to move all the pastors, we had to move to daddy's house because we were working online. And so she lived with daddy for about 5 years, I think 5 years. So, I met her in daddy's house, and then we just started talking, and from there, praying, and like they say, the rest is history.
Okay. So should I ask you your own part of the story? Do you have something to say?
Yeah. Hallelujah. Okay. Vincent does not want me to talk. All right. Okay. So I don't really have anything different from what he said. I'll just pick it up from 2020. I also had just ended my relationship in February. In February, yes, 6 years relationship. We're already engaged to be married, and I was the one that ended the relationship. And that period, Daddy told me to pray and fast. I also wasn't thinking of any relationship at that period. And while I was praying, okay, let me chip this in that one of the things that you need to hold fast in trusting God for is spouses. You need to be able to hear God for yourself, and then you also need to be able to identify how God speaks to you. So that period, it was a Wednesday in church. When the altar was on this side, and I'm sorry, I'm not concentrating because of my son. Okay, so the altar was on this side, and we're watching Noel Jones' message on that particular Wednesday. And while I was just praying, he just walked past, and I could hear in my spirit that that's your husband. I spent the next 3 months rebuking the devil because I was like, God forbid this one. That's what I used to say in my mind, this one. And then I remember also in February or March, and we used to have a council meeting at home, and it was, we didn't have it on the Sunday before that. I think it was on a Tuesday, or we had it on a Monday. And Daddy was telling him, like consoling him or something, that he should not worry, that his wife is within, that he should not search too much. In my mind, I was like, who will marry this one? And the Holy Spirit told me, you're the one. And okay, so I had to be intentional about building friendship with him, because I knew that, in fact, we're always fighting. I don't think we ever agreed on anything. We're always quarreling, always fighting. And yes, the rest is history.
Okay. I just want to say your story is beautiful. I'm gonna give you my own story too as well. So okay, you say you're always fighting. Now I just want to ask a question. Like, I know of course in marriages there's always some form of disagreement. So how well do you undo these disagreements between each other?
Okay, thank you. How do we handle disagreements? We talk about it, but I make the first move. My husband is a flag. Even when he knows that he's wrong, I don't know. I think he doesn't muster the courage to come and apologize. You shall know that he's feeling somehow that he has offended me. So most of the time, I'm always the one to like make the first move. Or sometimes even me, I don't want to talk. I just go and tickle him because I know he's very ticklish. I just tickle him. I say, you don't want to talk to me. I want to talk to you. So I make the first move, and we always talk about it. And if at all we are unable to resolve the issue, because sometimes it's just very adamant, I'll call daddy and mommy that see what this person is doing to me. And then if we don't resolve it ourselves, immediately we go and see them. It's always a resolved issue. It's not like they will solve the entire problem, but there's always like a word of wisdom. And then daddy will always call, like, have you resolved it? Because you still have to like talk to yourself even after your mentors have spoken to you. So that's how we resolve our issues.
So you address the issue, not like you let it slide. Okay.
Don't let anything slide, because me, I'll not be able to sleep.
Okay. So that means resolving it is that particular day, it must be resolved before you sleep.
Well, not okay.
Yes, that was the agreement we had anyway before we got married, that we mustn't go to bed without resolving any issue. But sometimes I think one or two occasions, well, I just left her alone. I want to go and sleep, my friend. I just left her alone, but she's the kind of person that if there's an issue bothering her, she won't be able to sleep. Me, I will sleep. Nothing want to happen. My sleep cannot disappear from my eyes. There's nothing that will happen. I will sleep. But on few times, like one or two occasions that we didn't resolve the issue on that particular day, maybe the next day talked about it. I think the highest or the longest issue we've ever had was probably 2 days or 3 days. 3 days, yeah, 3 days, and so we talk about it basically.
Okay. So you talk about your disagreements and you handle it maturely. Then also, number 3 question is your parents' marriage part of your inspiration to marry?
No.
No.
Okay, 2 ways, because I have biological parents and I have adopted parents. While I was growing up, I come from a very dysfunctional family. My parents are separated. They separated like 4 years ago. But I don't think, like growing up, I don't think I'd ever seen them happy, loving for too long. Maybe like 1 day, 2 days, and then they are back to fighting. And it's not small fight though, like fight that there will be blood. So when I met mommy and daddy in 2016, I didn't want to get married. I mean, I was just in my relationship because the guy was nice, and then I was in the relationship. So I spoke to them about my fears of marriage, and they were like, "Oh, you will get married. Don't worry. God is going to do it and all." And I stayed with them to the glory of God for 5 years. They are my adopted parents, and I can tell you that it's because of their marriage that I actually decided to get married. I stayed with them 5 years. I have never seen them argue with themselves, not once. As in, it's all like married people quarrel, like you would have disagreements and all, but I've never seen them argue with themselves. I have never seen them disagree openly. I mean, I've never seen it. I never saw it. Compared to where I was coming from, that any small thing, so yes, it was their marriage that inspired me to get married.
Well, my biological parents, they are still together to the glory of God. No,
Wonderful family compared to us.
nothing. Well, was I inspired? I wasn't really inspired, and I wasn't really. I was just there, sha. not like really inspired me like that, and then not like maybe I didn't feel like getting married because of their marriage. They are doing fine to the glory of God. They are where they are. Not where I am. But of course, looking back or looking at daddy and mommy's marriage, it's more like a model. It's something that we are modeling our lives into. So I can say their own marriage inspired us, or inspired me rather, to get married.
So do you agree on the division of labor in your house? For
Yes. So-
instance, who does the chores in the house? Who does it?
Okay, we both do chores in our house. There's no gender role in our house. Well, except for very recently when we became parents, and obviously there are some things that my husband can do. But he does dishes, I do dishes. He does my laundry, I do his laundry. We do each other's laundry. He bathes for the baby, he feeds the baby, he puts him to sleep, he sweeps the house, I sweep the house. We actually do it together. There are no, yeah, the one that is supposed to do this. And we actually don't talk about it. Like, obviously, it was part of the things that we discussed when we're getting, like when we're cutting. But like we wake up in the morning. Okay, take for instance this morning. I woke up, immediately we got up from the bed. Eden wakes up too. Because once you get up from once everybody's awake, he will also wake up. And then he was crying. So I had to back him. I went to the kitchen. He went to take his bath. And immediately I came back to the room, was like, bring him, let me bathe him. He collected him, bathed for him. I went back to the kitchen, made food. I came back, I collected Eden from my husband, and he went back and served Eden's food and brought it to the room. I fed him. I think he was even the one that carried him to church. So that's how we run it in our house.
So, what about cooking? You know,
We do the
cooking
cooking together.
together.
Yes, I cook, he cooks too. There are no.
So, men, can
I
you
cook.
hear
I cook very
together?
well. In
Yes,
fact,
my
I cook
husband
very
cooks
well.
well. Just that sometimes oil will not be enough.
No.
But he cooks really well. I mean, if
Wow.
you come and visit us and he cooks, you might not know that he's the one that cooked the food. Thank you.
Okay, so what role, Pastor Sylvester, this is for you. What role should friends and extended families have in your marriage?
Friends and extended families, they should have a very limited role because basically marriage is about both of you. I mean, it's people involved, husband and wife. I remember the day we got married. You know, I told you she lived in daddy's house. After the church wedding, after the court wedding, my friend drove us to daddy's house to pack her remaining bags and everything to the car. And then when we got there, mom was asking me, where are all your friends? Everybody had gone. As in everybody, it was me and her. So basically, marriage is just both of you, the husband and the wife, just two of you. So if you now decide to bring in people, third party, friends, relatives, uncle, grandpa, and all those things, there will be issues. Part of the things we talked about when we were cutting was nobody was going to live with us, for the first few years of our marriage, because that time we need to understand and study ourselves. It's not when, we've married we'll be 2 years this June. So, in 2 weeks time, okay. Oh, yeah, 2 weeks time, okay. We'll be 2 years, and then we have been living together for that long. She has been cooking, I've been eating her food. If someone now comes to live in my house now, and I say, this salt is somehow, this food is too salty. The food I've been eating for the past 2 years, I didn't complain. Someone will now come and tell me, so let friends and families and relations or whatever have a limited role in your life. It's not every time you go and see what my husband did do, see what my wife said do. If at all, because nobody's an island, you need to learn. If at all you need to discuss with someone or people, let it be your mentor, someone that both of you have agreed that, okay, this is person that both of us will submit to. My wife and I will submit to daddy and mommy. She knows that if I say I'm not doing anything, no matter how, if she cannot convince me to do that thing, there's only one person that can convince me, and that is daddy. So she knows that, okay, once this matter gets to daddy's table, it's resolved. So rather than having 2, 3, 4, 5 people that you always discuss your issue with, just limit it to one, or at best two, maybe a couple or a mentor. So let friends, families, relations, extended family, nuclear, let everybody have limited access to your marriage so that they don't disturb, because it's about both of you. Both of you are the people that had God. So I remember when she told her dad that she wants to get married, and she said, oh, maybe new. And I said, kilo come. She moved to Tirini. It wasn't even bothered like, it's your choice. So that's it. So don't always push your issues out there. You are quick to call a friend. You are quick to call a neighbor. You are quick to report your husband to somebody. You are quick to report your wife to those people that you look at there. They also have their issues, but they won't tell you. Everybody just packaging the whole thing. So to answer the question, let friends, families, and everybody, let them have a limited role in your marriage.
All right. Okay. To add to what my husband said, the day of your wedding, no two people wore white gown with you. You're the only one that wore your gown, and then you were the only two persons that took the marriage oath. So you can't extend. Let extended family be extended. Like, let them just be there. You shouldn't expose your spouse's weaknesses to anybody. I mean anybody. You should protect whoever you're married to, knowing fully well that you chose them in their imperfection, and exposing them to your relative, for instance. They will always take your side. You're going to complain to your mom that your husband did this. Even if there's a part of it that you did wrong, your mom will take your side. So don't expose your spouse. If there is any need to actually bring in people into your marriage, let it be your mentors who you know that they are God-fearing and they would never lead you wrong. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, please let me add this. I remember something I read online some years back. It says, I'll just paraphrase. It says, when you and your partner have a quarrel, don't tell your family, because you will forgive your partner, but your family may not forgive your partner. And so with that, they'll be looking at him or her with that kind of, okay, you did this to our person, you did this to our daughter or to our son. So you have already moved on. You have forgiven your spouse because, both of you are together, you have covenants you are working with, you have moved on, but they are still remembering. Each time you go and visit them, they will remember that incident. Okay, don't worry. So let's extended families, like my wife said, let them be extended.
Okay, so you limit what and what you say about your
Set
spouse.
boundaries.
Set your boundaries, and then protect your spouse. So, okay, let's move to the finances. How well should couples manage their finances? And I also want, in these finances, let's talk about accounts. Should they do it like a joint account, or you have your own account, I have my own account, or should it be a joint family account?
Okay, thank you. I would say what works for us. We've been married for about 2 years now. And we don't run the policy of his money is our money, my money is my money. We do, your money is our money, my money is our money. And it was Daddy that taught us that during our counseling session. You need to realize that, okay, it was Daddy that told me this, that when God wants to bless a family, he not necessarily blesses both of you together because God sees you as one. So take, for instance, he's blessing your wife. He's not blessing your wife for herself. He has blessed her for the family. That's her husband and the children. So what we run is, once money comes in at the end of the month, if we, regardless of whose income is more, we put everything down and draw it. But like, we just merge it. We don't bother thinking, oh, I brought more money, I want to buy this thing for myself. We put everything together, draw our budget, and then if there is anything like I need personally, we talk about it. And although his needs are more than my own, because he's the one always buying something for himself. so so that's what we do, and it has worked so well. I don't think we've ever disagreed on finances, except when he's doing impulse buying. But that's how we do it. We put the money together.
You actually mentioned something about him having more needs. I know, okay, the finances has to be balanced and all that. But in a case where he has more needs, and maybe it's a continuous need, like it's always the one who can buying. How do you try to balance it?
Well, me, I don't care actually, because I'm not, I think it's just a part of being selfless when you don't think of yourself. When I say he has more needs, it's not like, I want to buy this one, I want to buy. But how do I say this now? I'm not a material person. So maybe what I need is okay, I've been wearing this earring for a while, and then it's obvious that I need to change it, but my mind is not going there. But you see my husband, if she is worn out, he wants a new one. And that's the kind of person he is, and that's the difference though, and that's actually the balance. So when I say he has more needs, it's not like unreasonable and all. It's just because me, I don't think about it. I don't bother, I don't think about it. I can wear one shoe for 5 years. I don't care, I don't bother myself.
Do you have anything to say? Okay, what's your number one piece of advice for a successful marriage?
Number one piece, I actually had two, but I think I've said one before. I would say for a successful marriage. Okay, my number one piece of advice, and it's to the women or the ladies to become women, is that the power of a woman is in submission. The world will not tell you this. Your society will not tell you this, but it is the truth. If you're a submissive wife, you can get your husband to do anything. And I mean anything. Anything in this world. Okay, let me cite an example. When we had our baby, we had to stay with my in-laws for a while. And then they were complaining. Where will I, like, I just put to bed and all, and they were like, why is he the one doing the laundry? Why is he the one doing the dishes? Why is he the one sweeping? Why is he the one doing this and all? And you know, if I felt like if I wasn't a submissive wife, the way they were complaining, he too would have picked it up. That you're using my head, you're doing this, you're doing that. But even when they complain and he will come back inside the room, that thing that they said he should not do, he will come back and do it inside. You know? And then he will go out and they will not know that anything has happened. And that's just, and it has worked for me. And it was mommy that taught me that when we had a very long, one of those days when we were planning our wedding, I and myself and mommy, we had one very long discussion. I wrote everything down in my diary, and that was one of the things that she told me, that submission is a woman's power. Yes, submission.
So Sylvester, any piece of advice?
Okay, for a successful marriage,
yeah.
have a mentor. If you don't have a mentor, it may, you know, even if God has told you that this is your spouse, this is your husband, this is your wife, and for example now, if not because of daddy and mommy, she wouldn't have agreed to marry me. You know, they had their own part to play because of where she was coming from, a family separated, she had a relationship that spanned 6 years, and it broke up. And then so it was the role of the mentors in her life and our life that, you know, calm down. That I used to tell her, or she used to tell me that if we got married as way back as maybe like 5 years ago, when her head was still hot, you know, she'll have showed me pepper. But because of the role of mentors in her life, you know, she has learned to calm down and, you know, submit and, you know, just respect her husband. So my own advice is have a mentor over your life or over your relationship. Mentors will put you through to wherever you don't know, how you don't know how to go about it. Okay, let me say this. I remember her mom said she wasn't going to attend our wedding. And the wedding was on a Thursday. And that was...
It was the day before the
on
wedding.
Wednesday. She's not coming. It's something I've been planning for how long? It was daddy that over 2 hours on phone because I was
4
there.
hours.
4 hours. Because I was there in the house.
Conversation.
I was just talking, persuade. I mean, if it was not there, I don't know how I'll have gotten married without her mother there. So having a mentor in your life will, you know, help you succeed in marriage.
Okay, so you have a mentor, and as a woman, you should be submissive. Okay, this question is for the both of you. I know you have a son already. So I want to ask 2 questions in one question. What are the challenges that you face while transitioning from being a couple to becoming parents? And how well have you been able to manage and handle these challenges?
I'm supposed to answer first.
Let me start with the man of the house.
Okay, challenges from transiting from couple to parents. Challenges. I think the major challenge I had was getting my wife to what's the word now? Getting her to I'm looking for the right word to use, because when she gave birth, or when she put to bed, when we gave birth, all our attention was just on the boy. Everything, this one, this Eden, I'm like, babies will cry. It's normal for a baby to cry. You know, he's crying too much. You know, I'm like, what's all this now? So everything was just, attention was just on her. In fact, I felt neglected. Like, I mean, I was there before this boy now. You are now facing him and leaving me alone. So it was, the major challenge there was getting her or having her back to myself as my wife, not as the mother of my child. It was a major issue for me. I think we had to discuss with daddy about it. Let this boy breathe now. I keep telling her, this boy is a big boy. He's a big boy. Feel it. If he falls down, he will stand up. But she won't just admit it. She was just that. So the major challenge was getting her back as my wife, my friend that I married, not just as the mother of my son. I think that was the major challenge for me then.
Like I said, I asked 2 questions.
What's the
How
second
did you handle the
Okay, we talked about it. I remember one time I just told her, I said, see, this is how I feel. I feel like you are neglecting me. I feel like you just threw me away. I feel like I no longer exist in your world. So we talked about it. I poured out my heart, how I was feeling. And because she knows that I'm a flag, and most times flags don't really talk. They just observe, and but the day it gets just pour it out. So she knows that once I just vent out like that, she knows that okay, that's got to the peak. And so she adjusted when I spoke to her. And then we spoke to daddy and mommy as well about it. And they also counseled us, and she adjusted.
So, the mother of the child, how did you handle it? And what
Okay.
are the challenges you faced?
Uh, okay. I think for me, motherhood has been the most challenging part of my life. I mean, the transition was really, really challenging. And this is for every young lady, every soon to be mother, be mentally prepared for motherhood, because nobody will tell you. Nobody tells anybody. You just experience it, and there's no break. There's no break at all. Maybe when you're like mommy and then all of them are going to school, maybe you have breathing space that time. But there's no break. Once you give birth, there's no, as in there's no break. So it was really, really challenging for me. Very, very challenging. And the kind of support that I had envisioned that I was going to have, it wasn't really, really there. So how did I handle it? I had to make friends with people that already had children, and I had to build my own support system, from immunization centers to somebody I just met on the road that is carrying a child, and engage a lot of people who already had children. Oh, this is how you do it. This is how you manage yourself. And oh, yes, that's how I did.
Okay. So, did you have any final words of advice to singles and to those that are married? No singles now, we will soon get married. So, do you have anything to tell us?
Okay, my final word of advice is whoever you are picking as a life partner is a partner. As in, he's not just your husband or the father of your children. You should be a team. You should be one. You shouldn't see yourself as, oh, he's there and I'm here and we're just living our life like that. No, you should live your life as one, like the way God sees you. Because if you don't do it like that, there will be a me syndrome. Because in marriage, you have to make sacrifices. You have to make a lot of sacrifices. Mommy and daddy will always tell you, you have to make sacrifices for your husband, especially on the woman's part. You make sacrifices for your husband, sacrifice for your children, and all, and even for the man as well. So if you don't see yourself as one, there will be a lot of issues, unnecessary issues that shouldn't even come up at all, because you'll be like, you are feeling cheated. And meanwhile, you should do something for the betterment of the family, not just for yourself. So yes, that's
Pastor Sylvester.
Okay, final words,
piece of
Abby.
advice.
Final piece of advice for singles. If you are single, go and marry. Yes, go and get married. Don't wait for anything. One of the ways I convinced my parents was that, because I mean they were telling me I'm too young, this and this. You need to, my dad was telling me I need to have a minimum of 1 million in my accounts, this and this. I said, okay, sir. One of the ways I convinced them was I told them, I said things are going up every day. The price of bag of rice this year will go up next year. So let me give an analogy now. If, for example, you are single and you are planning to get married in December, this is June. This is June, yes. I plan to get married in December, and you want to save up maybe like a million naira. The value of a million naira by right now, by December, inflation will have set in. So what you can buy with a million naira now, you may need maybe 3 million to buy it by December. So because the major challenge people have is, I want to hammer, I want to blow, I want to...
or people that want to do DK 2020, DK 23, or
you want
reunion.
to do all those things, and it's money. Those things are just plan your wedding according to your, not even your size now, your material. Yes, go and get married, and then plan for your marriage. not the wedding. Most people spend time planning for the wedding and wedding and wedding that will just after maximum 3 or 4 hours, everything is done. Plan for your marriage. Go and get married. Stop waiting for price as full has gone up now. Nobody knows what to happen next week. Go and get married and stop waiting. If you are above 25, 26 and you are still single and you have someone that is ready, I mean, so what else are you waiting for? So that's my word of advice for singles. If you are of marriageable age, go and get married. Stop waiting.
Have you heard? Those that are single, go and get married. Tell your neighbor if he's single or if she's single, tell her to get married. But Sylvester has said it, go and get married.
Okay, I wanted to add this. I'm sorry. I know that we're already behind time. But if you don't have a spouse yet, go and pick your wedding date too. No, I'm serious. The day I told my husband, yes, I will marry you, he told me, okay, so we are getting married June 24, 2023. And we did get married on the 24th of June, 2023. And he had picked the 2021, sorry. 2021. And he had picked the date even before he even found his sister to marry. So go and pick your wedding date and believe God that, yes.
Okay, so you've heard. Go and get married. And if you don't have a spouse yet, pick a wedding date, believing God and trusting in God that, okay, this date will come to pass. So please, do we have any questions? If you have any questions, you can signify. Okay. We have questions. Okay, please come forward. If you have questions, just come.
Thank you very much. I just want you to share briefly with us how you were able to manage anger, because I know that that's not how you won't have issue concerning anger. How are you able to? Because I also want to learn from me, because I've had issues of anger in my marriage and I was able to work on it somehow, but I need to learn more from you as well. How are you be able to manage it, both of you? Thank you.
You want to talk first?
Okay, my husband said I should talk first. So how have we been able to manage anger? Well, I don't think we are angry people like that. but then, at least everyone has a level of that and all. My husband does not talk when he's angry. He doesn't see. In fact, the way to know that he's angry is when he's quiet. When he's quiet. And his quietness that gets me angry. Like, if you are angry, just say something. Don't ignore me. Don't keep quiet on me and all. So I think there was a particular time that we had an issue, and even when we had gone to see mommy and daddy, I was still upset because of the things that he said when we were talking to them. And I refused to talk to him. And that was like the 3 days long, no talking. I will still cook his food though, serve it the way I used to serve it, but we're not talking and all. And I was so angry. And I knew that if I spoke to him, because I am a choleric, I would say very nasty things that I will not be able to take back. So what we do is that I wrote him a letter, a 4 pages letter. And that's not the first time I'm writing a letter. Because I know that if I talk, I will say things that I might not be able to take back. So I would rather write. Yeah. So that's how.
All right. So thank you so much. I'm so sorry, we can't take more questions. So you can write it down and give it to the ushers. Thank you. Thank you so much.